planning to address some of those?
Yeah, a very important question also. It goes without saying that I think the professor touched on it. Decentralization should be wholly defined and also wholly implemented. We have traveled along that road now almost for 30 years. But in terms of decentralization, one of the challenges is some of the powers, by law also, are still with the decentralized structures at our head offices. So let me take an example. When you take about, we have decentralized the function of maintenance in the Ministry of Works, for example. But Works does not only deal with the function of maintenance. It deals with a lot of other functions that you cannot easily access because they have not been decentralized. So you have got, for example, a huge ministry like the Ministry of Health. Although they are carrying out decentralized services, in terms of the formal setup that they should be, it's a challenge. Because as a regional council, I don't want to say the door is closed, but they are not actually delegated to the regional council as per law. So that is one challenge. That means when services are carried out in terms of decentralization, you must submit reports, you must be accountable for these things, but it is happening right in front of your doorstep, but you do not actually have the executive powers to deal with the people or the ministries that are not decentralized. And that is a big challenge and a big problem.
Very well. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Haas. I want to move to education. Mr. Tangeni, if we can just help us understand, how local communities can actually play a bigger role in education.
Thank you very much. I think I should talk more on the out-of-school youth, as I've indicated, not necessarily on formal education. I think that must be very, very clear. I'm not in that portfolio of formal education, but on the portfolio of out-of-school youth. And of course, my talks will be limited to out-of-school youth empowerment. As a ministry, we see decentralization as a government strategy. One is more central to government strategy of closing the gap between urban and rural areas. Hence, we are leveraging on the governance framework of decentralization by ensuring that our offices in the regions, officials who are managing these offices, they are well capacitated and they are connected, their activities are connected to the regional plans, regional and local plans. And so that the regional and local forums and councillors, they co-design programs, economic empowerment programs that are supporting the young people. So the programs that we are offering, they should not only be of economic empowerment, but they should be served as a vehicle towards social justice and the national cohesion.
Very well, thank you so much. Mr. Arasa, I want to come to you just for you to actually give some of the core examples that are probably very, very significant on how Nalau is actually working with central government to improve, to improve local councils. That's a very important aspect to look into.
Yeah. It's very important also to, I think, for us to realize that the 2023 census confirmed what we were already projecting since 2018, that we have said that Namibia is becoming more urban, and we have now about 50% of Namibians living in urban areas. And that means that local authorities will increasingly be important role players if we have to develop our country. And therefore, this collaboration between central, regional, and local government, national government is very, very critical. What one finds, unfortunately, is that I meet, although I'm with Nalau, my ear is also open to the voices of councillors and mayors. I meet a lot of frustrated councillors and mayors who are saying, mate, we want to do a lot of things, we want to do this and that, but we cannot make decisions on the ground because almost all major life-changing decisions need ministerial approval. So that point where local authorities on key issues, on capital projects, on the budgets, like now, for instance, we are almost 1 month into the new financial year. It's now August, second month. I'm not sure how many local authorities can confidently say that their budget that they approved at council has already been signed off by the line ministry. So these are the kind of things that we struggle with. So what we are arguing for is a greater collaboration, because we believe in the principle of, because decentralization about the principle of subsidiarity, which argues that decisions are made at the level where the action needs to take place, where the needs are, by people who have the political decision-making authority, that when council makes a decision, that decision should carry and not wait for 3-4 months. Sometimes local authorities, for instance, on issues like joint ventures, you want to do something, develop the town, build houses, you want to enter a joint venture agreement, that joint venture agreement could easily stay unapproved for more than a year, meaning that sometimes those developments could be hampered. So I think what we really want to see, both from municipal professionals, but also I think from what we hear from our political leaders at the local level, is that they need more autonomy, more authority in terms of decision making, but also in terms of predictable resourcing of development at the local level.
Very well, thank you so much. I think because of the sound difficulty, we tested your voice a bit there. Thank you so much for making that clear for us. Prof, I want to point some of the things that the CRO actually mentioned earlier in terms of the inclusion of women, youth, and minority groups as well. From an academic's perspective, how can local government actually get better at that, and how can they better include women, youth, and minority groups?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. As I indicated, decentralization and the concept of bringing government closer to the people, it's about giving voice. If you say, for instance, look at the Local Authority Act, already since the very beginning, it included a gender quota of 30% women representation. I think by the second or third election, that quota was raised to 50%. Zebra-style women representation or gender representation in the context of local authority. We have seen women local authority councillors not only being members. We have seen women that rose and occupied positions of mayor. And I think more women can also become and occupy the position of a local authority management committee chairpersons, because that is also a very powerful position. It's not on the front line, it's in the back door. And I have not done research on that one. You asked me to speak academically, so I cannot make generalized statements. But I will put my head on the block and say especially that power of the chairperson of the management committee. There we need to see it become more gender equal, because in many instances, just from observing without empirical evidence, you see it remain primarily gender male dominated. Now the issue of youth, we don't have really policies that promote the same level of political representation for young people the same way we see with gender. But I think from the last elections that we have seen in the country, young people, once they have received the necessary political education, they can rise to the occasion. Now, this aspect of equality, many people tend to dismiss it. But let me give you 3 principles on why equality is important. The first principle is that of justice. If you look at the statistics, both women and youth in many of our societies, especially women, are more than 50%. Youth is close to 40% there around in many of our communities. So from a justice point of view, how can you call yourself a democratic society if 50 or 40% of your population is excluded? The second principle is that of interest. Young people's interests are completely different from the interest of myself, Arasep, and others that are no longer that young. So if local authorities and regional councillors have to provide services, bring it closer to the people, and the interests are different, will the services that women need the most be brought closer to them if they don't have a voice? Would the services that young people require being brought close to them if they are not represented? The last aspect, principle, is that of experience. Now, I here will use an example. Take a gynecologist, a doctor, that delivers children and attend to women health issues. I know quite a few of them that are male, that are very good because they have received very good education, but they lack experience. They have never given birth. So if we move from theory to practice, they will not go there because they have never given birth. So from that perspective, equality is important because it brings us closer to justice. It ensures the equitable representation of the different social interests that we have in society. And lastly, policies, if they are mainly based on theory, they can mislead us. So equal representation is the only way that experience can be brought to the table from all sectors of society.
Some recent examples, some other projects or programs in the side, I want to come to you perhaps to just help us understand some of the challenges that the ministry is currently facing, and how, especially in terms of ministries working together. What is the challenge there in terms of ministries working together to actually make sure that the services are brought not only for education, but small services that are quite basic for every Namibian on the street? What is the challenge experience in that regard, and what can be done to help ministries actually come together and make services closer to them?
Thank you very much. Youth empowerment is the responsibility of all of us. The ministry have developed the national youth policy, which clearly indicates what is required and what is expected from all of us when it comes to youth empowerment. The policy talks to a number of pillars. One of them is education and training. So when you look at the education and training, it expects all institutions that offer training and education to the Namibian young person to perform and to render the service in that area. The second one is youth well-being, youth health and well-being. That also talks to all institutions that are responsible for health and well-being, ensure that young people, they have received the services. The third one is youth employment and economic empowerment. This is more the responsibility of every sector, both public and private sector. We also have another pillar that talks to youth civic and political participation, where we expect young people to participate or to take up civic duties and to participate in political setup. Now, when you look at this policy, when it was developed, Cabinet have directed all ministries that have a role to play to ensure that they carry out the task and they report on progress made. However, in most cases, we are not getting details of what happened when it comes to the implementation of some of the objectives stated in the policy. At the time, we communicate to OMAS to get updates. However, it's not always that you get the timely information. Yes, there might be a number of challenges. Yes, we have challenges. I think it's the same with other ministries have challenges. But this does not mean that there's nothing happening. There is a lot happening. Ministries, offices, and agencies are doing a lot in terms of ensuring that these set objectives are being met. Also, one of the aspects that we have if you get them today, you tell them that there's also a problem, they would want to get the service on the same day, on the spot. If I can give an example of the Namibia Youth Grants, it's a scheme where we are giving young people, those who cannot access finance from the commercial entities, because there they are required to have collateral. These young people want to receive from them only to have a business proposal. And it's not a technical one, just an indication to say, I'm going to set up maybe a tax shop, I'm going to sell ABC, and these are the people that are targeted. From there, these young people, you take them through a basic entrepreneurship training, which normally runs for a week to 2 weeks, depends on their understanding. Then from there, they apply for a loan that starts from 8,000 Secondly, because when you pay the first loan, you can move now to the second level of the next loan, which is higher than the 8,000. Now, what we tell them that if you not pay the 8,000, your business cannot grow because you cannot move to the next level. And the other person cannot move to the next level. So the main challenge that we are having is that of loan repayment and loan recovery. That's the challenge. So some of them, they start business, or they get money, they don't buy the stock. Some, they buy the stock and then only 2 days the business is, maybe they don't do a proper split study to ensure that the business was feasible.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ekura. I want to start wrapping up the panel discussion before I open up the floor for issues or questions. Mr. Harrison, my question then would be, just we look ahead into the future, what is the one key action or priority that you believe we must take now to ensure that decentralization truly drives us improves inclusive and equitable development for all communities?
I think one of the key things is to look at what the NTP6 says, that those 3 priorities. We need a strategy. We need a plan to do it. Because now, at least over the last few years, I've seen that the way we do policy in Namibia has changed. That every policy is supposed to have a strategy and a budget. So the decentralization policy didn't have that. It's now time to work on that. That's the key. We need to agree then on a equitable, maybe formula-based funding system that is predictable, that is not prerogative-based. Because now when local authorities, for instance, plan and do their budgets, you are never sure whether you will get money until it actually comes. So you cannot plan on a long-term basis. And that principle, so equitable financing, plus what we are saying and what we've been arguing, that has fortunately been included in the NTP6 is that the role of decentralization is to be elevated at least to the level of the office of the Prime Minister so that they can be pushed, because there's no way one ministry like the line ministry, our line ministry, would force another ministry to decentralize. So that push needs to come. You can't have a situation like we have with land reform, willing buyer, willing seller. And that's what we were saying, that is like if you are willing, if a ministry is willing, then they can decentralize at their own pace. But there is no real policy push that can really bring services to the local levels.
Thank you so much. I want to pose the same question to Prof. Gaba. It's simply a form. What's the one thing that needs to happen now to make sure that decentralization actually helps all communities, especially those that
Yes, no, thank you. I think rather than only emphasizing decentralization and bringing services closer to the people, the process of decentralization to be both effective and efficient, it should strive to achieve more results, do more, with little available resources. And I know perhaps many of our local and regional colleagues may not talk to me after this one, for raising this one. But I think both local authorities, especially local authorities, should become more efficient and effective. Effective in the sense that where a local authority is created, there should be impact. Impact on the life of the people. Even if it remains an informal settlement area, at least local authorities should become more efficient. And why I'm emphasizing this one, earlier on talked about decentralization being about resources. We have been seeing the cost of localized bureaucratization taking away resources from localized community development. And I have one example that